To quote from the report by the Government Oversight Committee, even after the administration claimed it was awarding Iraq contracts competitively in early 2004, real price competition was missing. Iraq was divided geographically and by economic sector into a handful of fiefdoms. Individual contractors were then awarded monopoly contracts for all the work within given fiefdoms. Because these monopoly contracts were awarded before specific projects were identified, there was no actual price competition for more than 2,000 contracts. Continuing to quote, in the absence of price competition, rigorous government oversight becomes essential for accountability. Yet the administration turned much of the contract oversight work over to private companies with blatant conflicts of interest. Oversight contractors saw their business partners, and in some cases oversaw their business partners. I want to go over that again. Oversight contractors oversaw their business partners, and in some cases were placed in a position to assist their own construction work under separate monopoly construction contracts. Continuing to quote from the report, under Halliburton's two largest Iraq contracts, Pentagon auditors found $1 billion in questioned costs and over $400 million in unsupported costs. Former Halliburton employees testified that the company charged $45 for cases of soda, billed $100 to clean 15-pound bags of laundry, and insisted in housing its staff at the five-star Kempinski Hotel in Kuwait. Halliburton truck drivers testified that the company torched brand new $85,000 trucks rather than perform relatively minor repairs and regular maintenance. Halliburton procurement officials describe the company's informal motto in Iraq as, "Don't worry about price, it's cost plus." A Halliburton manager was indicted for major fraud against the United States for allegedly billing more than $5.5 billion for work that should have cost only $685,000 in exchange for a $1 million kickback from a Kuwaiti subcontractor. The Air Force found that another U.S. government contractor, Custer Battles, set up shell subcontractors to inflate prices. Those overcharges were passed along to the U.S. government under the company's cost-plus contract to provide security for Baghdad International Airport. In one case, the company allegedly took Iraqi-owned forklifts, repainted them, and then leased them to the United States government. Continuing to quote from the report, despite the spending of billions of taxpayer dollars, U.S. reconstruction efforts in key sectors of the Iraq economy are failing. Over 2 years after the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq, oil and electricity production has fallen below pre-war levels. The administration has failed to even measure how many Iraqis lack access to drinkable water. See, end of quote from that report. Constitution in Crisis, a book by Congressman John Conyers, details the Bush administration's response when contract abuse is made public. Quote, Bunatine Greenhouse was the chief contracting officer at the Army Corps of Engineers, the agency that has managed much of the reconstruction work in Iraq. In October 2004, Ms. Greenhouse came forward and revealed that top Pentagon officials showed improper favoritism to Halliburton when awarding military contracts to Halliburton's subsidiary Kellogg, Brown, and Root. Greenhouse stated that when the Pentagon awarded Halliburton a 5-year, $7 billion contract, it pressured her to withdraw her objections, actions which she claimed were unprecedented in her experience. On June 27, 2005, Ms. Greenhouse testified before Congress. detailing that the contract award process was compromised by improper influence by political appointees, participation by Halliburton officials in meetings where bidding requirements were discussed, and a lack of competition. She stated that the Halliburton contracts represented this is a quote, the most blatant and improper contract abuse I have witnessed during the course of my professional career. Unquote. Days before the hearing, the acting general counsel of the Army Corps of Engineers paid Ms. Greenhouse a visit and reportedly let it be known that it would not be in her best interest to appear voluntarily. Continuing to quote from the Conyers book, on August 27, 2005, the Army demoted Ms. Greenhouse, removing her from the elite senior executive service and transferring her to a lesser job in the Corps' Civil Works Division. As Frank Rich of the New York Times described the situation, her crime was not obstructing justice, but pursuing it by vehemently questioning irregularities in the awarding of some $7 billion worth of no-bid contracts in Iraq to the Halliburton subsidiary Kellen Brown Root. The demotion was an apparent retaliation for her speaking out against the abuses, even though she had previously had stellar reviews for over 20 years of experience in military procurement. End of quote from the Conyers book. The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform reports on domestic contracting, quote, the administration's domestic contracting record is no better than its record on Iraq. Waste, fraud, and abuse appear to be the rule rather than the exception. A Transportation Security Administration cost-plus contract with NCS Pearson, Inc. to hire federal airport screeners was plagued by poor management and egregious waste. Pentagon auditors challenged $303 million. That's over 40% of the $741 million spent by Pearson under the contract. The auditors detailed numerous concerns with the charges of Pearson and its subcontractors, such as $20 an hour temporary workers billed to the government at $48 per hour, subcontract who signed out $5,000 in cash at a time with no supporting documents, $373,273.75 in unsubstantiated long-distance phone calls, $514,201 to rent tents that flooded in a rainstorm, and $4.4 million in no-show fees for job candidates who didn't appear for tests. A Pearson employee who supervised Pearson's hiring efforts at 43 sites in the U.S. described the contract as a waste of taxpayers' money. The CEO of one of Pearson's subcontractors paid herself $5.4 million for 9 months' work and provided herself with a $270,000 pension. Continuing to cite the report, the administration is spending $239 million on an integrated surveillance and intelligence system, a no-bid contract to provide thousands of cameras and sensors to monitor activity on the Mexican and Canadian borders. Auditors found that the contractor, International Microwave Corp., billed for work it never did and charged for equipment it never provided.